Hey everyone, in this video we are going to take a look at the free-to-use 3D modeler MagicaVoxel. MagicaVoxel is available for free on GitHub. So let's take a look at what this is. So, as the name would suggest, you're going to be working with voxels. So the object as a whole is made up of little cubes. So if you look in the upper right corner here, you see 40, 40, 40. So this is the default project when you open up MagicaVoxel. So you can actually change this to up to 256, 256, 256. That is the largest size. But we're actually going to work with something much smaller. We'll just do, say, 20, 20, 20. As far as basic UI navigation, you right-click, hold, and move the mouse to rotate the camera. Press down on the scroll wheel and move the mouse to pan, and then you just use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. Now, you have three basic selectors here. You have attach, erase, and paint. Right now it's set to erase. And then up here you have several different shape tools. So depending on what you have selected depends on the effect this shape tool will have. Like for instance, B is for box. So if you have erase selected, that will erase a box. If you have attach selected, then you're adding a box. So right now we're already at the max size. We're already at 20, 20, 20. So we would start with erasing. And this is really an example of how this differs from a lot of 3D modelers, because a lot of 3D modelers, particularly the high-end ones, tend to be very technical as far as the manipulation of lines, vertices, and facings. This, you're just adding and removing blocks. So it takes out all that kind of technical aspect to it. Okay, so let's go through some of these tools. So B is box, and this is erase. So you just left-click and hold, and it erases a box. So you can just do that again. Okay. Now, if we choose F, that is for facing. So this would delete a whole facing. And a facing, again, we're set to erase. If it was attached, which we'll get to, it'll have a different effect. A facing is defined by adjacent sides, so corners don't count. So this should make this entire frame disappear. And sure enough, it did. And we'll do it again. Okay. V is really the freehand tool. So if I left click, you just draw around. And I like to point out down here, you can actually change the size. So right now it's a size of 1. You have little up and down arrows, or you can just change this. Like if I do say 5, and then come over here, you can see already that the point is much larger and goes deeper too. So up here, it's 1 by 1, which is a single block. Here, it's 5 by 5. So let's bring that back down to 1. And you can just do a single point too. You don't have to do a line. C is for center, and it's a circle. So this is a little bit unusual because a lot of applications, when you're drawing a circle, you're really starting at the upper corner. I know circles don't have corners, but it's like you're drawing a circle inside of a square. So you start at the upper corner and you draw down to the lower corner. This is actually the opposite. You're starting in the center. So in other words, if I go up to the left and do this, you can see it's only like an arch. So let's just click on undo. So you have to start at the center of the circle and you go out. And let's take a look. So this is line. So just left click, draw a line, draw one here. Now the line isn't actually drawn until you let go. So if I hold this, you can see it's redrawing the line in real time. Now I want to point something out. So right here, the project or project setting, what's happening is if I try to draw another line, since these blocks are missing, if I try to draw another line on top of this, it'll draw even deeper. So watch what I mean. So let's leave it like that for a second and just do this one more time to make this easier to see. And that one's gone just because of the circle. Okay, so if I do this, if I draw a line, you'll see that it's going to cut deeper through here. See how those were already missing, and so it had to go one deeper? Well, if you undo that, that won't happen. So we'll do that again. See, it did not dig deeper. So you want to be mindful of these little kind of subsettings for the individual tools. Okay, so let's see. Oh, and facing we already did. I'll just make one more demonstration. This should be the only thing that should disappear now because these other ones, the adjacent ones, have been removed. See? Okay, so now rinse and repeat for attach. Now we're just going to delete everything to begin with before we do the attach. So typical select all for Windows works. So Control A and then just the delete key. So Control A to select all and then the delete key. So we go to attach and now you have the same shape tools, but now they're creating rather than deleting. So L for line. And by the way, you can draw on any side at any time. I'm not saying that it's easy to do to line things up, but you can. So you don't have to build up. So maybe you're making like a frame, although you wouldn't use the individual line tool. I suppose you could. So you can make your frame like that. And so center for the circle. And then V for the freehand. And you again can change the size to 4. Because it just flawlessly goes onto whatever plane you're pointing at. So you could like be making like a canyon or something. So let's see, we did line, we did circle, we did the free. As far as facing, so this will extrude a facing. So whereas the other one was deleting, this one will extrude. So like this here is a facing because those are all connected, but it should stop. Like it shouldn't do these or these because those aren't connected. At least I don't think they are. So if I click here, see how it just extruded that. Likewise, it will extrude this section. And here it will do this section, but it's going to be coming out towards us. Okay. Here, this whole section should come out. And don't think we did box yet. You can see the box just covered. It didn't fill in underneath. Not that there we go. You can see still open. Now you can do some mirroring. I probably should have showed that. There we go. So I should have showed some of that when I was doing erase. So let's quickly go back to erase. Mirror X. You can see it drew one over here as well. You do mirror Z. You can see. And let's go to paint. So the tools, once again, they are line and box and facing and circle, center, but now it paints. So if I was to choose a color, paints a box. Choose F, paints a facing. V, let's change the color. Left it at 4. That's 1. Line. Let's change it again just so we can make sure it's drawing. So line, diagonal line. Okay, I think that's about it for those tools for this tutorial. We'll go into more detail when I do an actual project. And these are just some of the UI settings, like do you want to see the grid, do you want to see edges, do you want to see a frame, that kind of thing. Now, just like any other project, you need to save your project. I'm not going to go through it because it's just your typical file explorer. So you just click that, name your file. I think it's a VOX file extension. And don't forget, there's a difference between saving your project and then exporting the actual usable model in whatever you're going to use, such as Unity. So you could click on export. OBJ is an OBJ object, and that is usable by Unity. You can also do 2D. 2D would create a, just as the name would suggest, a 2D image of the 3D model. So it would be a PNG specifically, so it would make a PNG image. And the reason why you do that is, say you're doing like an old school isometric game. I guess the original was probably Qbert, because that's where the camera angle is down and rotated to the side, basically like that. And so it would take an image, so it takes the 3D model and turns it into image. And I've seen that functionality in multiple 3D modelers. Like you can do that in 3D Builder, you can do that in Asset Forge, and there's probably other ones as well. So that's pretty typical to be able to turn a 3D model into a 2D image. And that's one of the applications for it, is because you're trying to make an isometric game. And I think there's a couple quick things. So if you want to see a more detailed image of this, you can click on render and you can see it's processing. So you actually see the shadows and so forth. Like you can see the shadows inside. You can change the various settings. I'm not going to offhand, but you could. And I'll save that for the actual project rather than this again, this overview. But as you can see, you can do like metal, plastic, glass, things like that. And the last thing I'll mention, we'll go back to model, is when we started off, it defaulted to a 40-40-40, and then we changed it to 20-20-20, but you have other options here, like you can click on 3x3. We'll just get rid of this project, so we'll say no, we don't want to save changes. As you can see, it creates a 3x3. You can do it 8x8, castle, knight, sword, doom, Menger, probably Monument Valley would be my guess, as it says Monu. Nature, I guess it's meant to be a canyon or something. And room, you can see there's like some outside lights there. Shelf, and then teapot. I don't know for certain, but I presume that there are probably more projects that you could import into here. And you can actually add your own too as well. So I think that's about it for this one. Again, I normally like to do a project to teach you the tools, but in this case, I really wanted to cover the UI separately. That way I don't have to keep stopping and explaining in the full project, whatever that is. So I'll put some thought into it and decide what project I think would be good. Feel free to let me know in the comments if there's a project you would like to see. Please keep in mind I am not an artist, so any project I do is really just to demonstrate the synergy between the tools. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.